All right, welcome back to another Fighter Heart podcast. I'm sitting here today with Zimri. How's it going, man?
How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We like to get into it pretty quick here. So, if you could just give us a little background about, who you are, where you came from, your upbringing, and then, get right into your Fighter Heart story.
Yeah, my name is Zimri. A lot of people call me Z. Just simple. I'm 41 years old. You know, I was uh I was raised in Southern California. Um, and I come from a Hispanic family. And growing up, as I was growing up, I was very active, played sports pretty much all my life. And then, somehow, some way, when I was 10 years old, I contracted a virus called meningitis. Um, I think I might have got it in school or something. And then at that point, my parents tried to uh, give me medicine and try to control the fever. And nothing was working. I took a really cold shower. Nothing was working. And then at that point, they're rushing me to the hospital. And once I get there, it's natural reaction. Um, they don't see you depending on the severity of your illness. And I'm sitting there in the waiting room. And then at some point, they rush me to the back and then I'm vomiting blood. And at that point, they realized something more serious was happening. Once that happened, um, I remember being laying down next to uh the screen and inside the hospital bed. And I think I must have flatlined. And my mom and my dad told me that they heard a helicopter arriving. And so at that point, natural reaction, they were curious, went outside to see who they were there to pick up. And little did they know that they were there to pick me up. um I'm being rushed in the incubator. My whole facial appearance was kind of already taking effect as far as the virus goes. I was swelled up, kind of purplish looking, and I'm being airlifted from one hospital to another. At which point, during the travel, my vitals stopped and my heart stopped. And so when we landed at the rooftop of that hospital, my I was pronounced dead. Um, I think my mom said it, I shed a tear down my eye once everybody they started unplugging me. And then after I shed my tears, somehow, some way, my vitals came back and my heart started pounding. And so it was at that point that they realized that they had a slight chance of survival. And so in order for me to, you know, to close, please, I'm on a call. And so when once give it to him. Okay, give it to him, please. Give it to him. I'm on the call, please. Can you go? Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
It's Sunday with my kids.
Yeah,
Um,
no
yeah,
sweat.
try to find some privacy. But anyways, at first when I was young at that age, I thought my mom was trying to tell me a story of survival and just kind of motivating me. But it wasn't until the captain of the helicopter walked into my room and told me, like, I can't believe you're here. Like, I delivered you dead, and for you to be here is like a living testimony. And I'm just blown, mind blown. And um they said I had a slight chance of survival, but they were gonna have to amputate my right fingers on my right hand, my left hand, and then I have a prosthetic as well below my knee.
Is that where the virus was? It was in your hands and your knee, your leg?
Yeah, so the virus was all over my body. My internal organs were damaged. Um, they said that if I was to survive, I was gonna be like in a state of vegetable because I was gonna be damaged. Brain. I was gonna be brain damaged. But physically on my body, this was the areas where it was more damaged, and so that's where they had to amputate in order for me to be have an opportunity to recover. Um, Once I was they amputated, I was put in a state of coma, and I probably was 5 to 6 months in a coma,
Wow.
and then I do always tell people, like, it is true what they say about, like in movies, reminiscence and flashbacks. It's true. You do have reminiscence, flashbacks, and you think about things that don't really, they're irrelevant at that point. And so, um, God kind of, God kind of told me that I was like a piece of bread, and when bread molds, we tend to take that piece of bread off, and we're still a good piece of bread. And so that's the terminology that he used for me as a kid to understand. Hey, you're a piece of bread. You're my piece of bread. I took a piece of you off, and you're still good. And so waking up from a coma at 10 years old, I understood that terminology, and I looked at my mom and I told her my story, and I embraced the change. And I said, I'm gonna be fine, mom. Don't worry about it. We'll be good.
So what was the process from there on out? So after you woke up from the coma, what's the like rehab process like? I know it was 20, 30 years ago, so I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Of course. Honestly, because of what I do and how I'm very involved in the community, I think it really helps me keep that reminder of that journey and that process of what it was, right? And so even at 41 years old, 10 years old, it's like it was yesterday. I can relive all those very bits and memories. Um, it was a challenge, obviously. Um, it was something new for me, but I think what helped me was that I'm a very ambitious little boy at that time. I'm like absorbing everything like a sponge and just trying to learn new things. And so, um, at that point, I just saw it as like, oh, something new to learn. Um, Not necessarily a disability. Um, and so probably want to say it was about a year process of like full blown recovery, taking baby steps, on the prosthetic for the first time. Um, start jogging a little bit, and then kind of I think where I saw my biggest challenges were probably when I went back to school. Um, because then it hit me, right, like everybody's looking at you, and at some point people are bullying you. And so um, I think my family, my parents were really big contributors when it came to understanding that this is gonna happen, and this you're gonna go through it. And you know what? While we're at it, let me tease you, and let me poke at you and make you stronger in that sense of for you to be ready for when the world starts tackling you. Um, that was pretty much my recovery process. After that, once I got over the little hump of fear in high school and everything, I shift gears, and I did everything that there was out there for me to do. I
Yeah,
played soccer,
what
football.
made you said you were playing sports like up until you were 10, right? Anyway, so you're already
Mm-hmm.
active, so you're like, I'm not giving this up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I grew up following soccer, and so soccer's always been my thing. And um, when I went to high school and I saw the opportunity to even try, even with my disability, I was like, dude, I don't care if I'm benched, as long as I'm part of the team, and I'm cool, and I made it, and I played, at football, made the cut, and I played and stuff, and it was fun. I really I did what I tell my kids to do now. Like, you never get these years back, so you got to do whatever it is that you got to do. Never live with that doubt of like what could have been, what would have been if I had just tried out.
Yeah, of course. So I see a lot of medals behind you, so I assume you're pretty good. Uh
Triathlon,
yeah, so
triathlon for 8 years. It's
wow.
not a joke. So
So what what made you go to triathlons, like from soccer? Like you didn't pursue soccer professionally, but triathlon.
I I played soccer and probably up until the age of 33 maybe. Uh I played with the adult leagues and stuff. And um one day, I'm an ambassador to a program here in the community called Possibilities. They're the ones that have been in my corner this whole time, and I honestly they changed my life. And so um when I joined them, I kind of started getting exposed to a lot of new things. And one of those things was triathlon. They hosted a triathlon, and they asked if I would be willing to try it out. And I said, let's do it. They let me borrow a running leg for the first time, and I was like weirded out. I was like, what the hell? And I started running and biked and swim. And anyways, long story short, when I completed the triathlon, even though it was so hard at that time, I just felt this passion. Like I felt this settling urge when I crossed the finish line that I'm like, damn, this is me right here. I belong here. And I didn't win first place or anything, but I finished and it felt so good. I did 3 sports back to back. And so I don't know that day I just shifted gears, started training hard. And at first it was just on me on my own. Then I got a coach. Then the team picked me up as a sponsored athlete, and I did it for 8 years up until last year, December, I think it was. I made my official retirement in the sport and as a competitive level at least.
Mhm.
And I had 50 over 55 races later. Um, I think I made a good run. And obviously, as you can see with my kids always needing that and doing things with them, it was just time to, with work, my wife, duties, it was just time for me to rack them up and
Yeah.
move on to bigger and different things now.
So you did over 8 year span, you did 55 races, you said?
Yeah,
So that's like 7 or 8, 7 a year or something like that.
it was about 8.
Wow. So like what is the training process like for that? Like are you training every day at that point for the 8 years?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think even twice a day sometimes. A lot of people don't understand. Like you go do track and field, and you do one event in track and field, and that's dedication to that one sport, right? And
Yeah.
whatever comes with that sport. And I literally, I'm focusing on 3 sports. I'm focusing on running, endurance, focusing on biking, right? Endurance, and then I'm focusing on swimming. So it's just 3 disciplines that are super hard, and it comes to a point where you have to like be consistent, all 3 of them, regardless of what the schedule is. I have a full-time job, and so for me,
Yeah, no,
it
what do you sleep an hour a day? Like, like you
dude,
barely
I was sleeping like maybe 3 hours sometimes, and it's like back at it again. And one of the things about, at least for me, in my opinion as an athlete, when you when something gets in the way of a training, it's like you got to bounce back and you have to make up for that. And sometimes making up for that takes that whole day, you know. So that's kind of how, in from an athlete perspective, is we take pride on how well and how dedicated our training must go in order for you to be competitive at that level into in a triathlon.
Yeah, what do you think your main motivator was? Like what made you want to work that hard?
My one of my biggest motivators is just people out there, for one. People out there that are looking for that motivation, that are looking for that, that little seed that will plant that will be planted in their lives to like want to explore, right? And sometimes people are limited on resources and information, and when you put yourself out there, it's like, wow, damn, he can do it. I can do that. Like, hell yeah, look at him, and then my family, my wife, my kids, they were always in my corner as well. My wife doing triathlon literally while I'm doing a triathlon because she's running with the kids from transition to transition, and watching them and calling me on the sideline. It was like, man, I love this feeling, and it's, having them in on the sideline, and my wife and my kids cheering me on. It was just, oh, very, very satisfying to see. So that
Mm.
always kept me going for sure.
Did you have that athlete that you're talking about to like look up to, like, oh, if he could do it, I could do it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I had his name is Andre Barbieri. He's Brazilian, and he's one of my um good friends that I grew up with the program. Actually, I was introduced to him, and then we raced together for the very first time. And as a matter of fact, that'll be us right there, the first race ever together.
Oh
And
wow.
so, when I saw him doing it, I didn't know he was that good, and I saw it as like, man, if he can do it, I can do it. And so once I did it, I realized how hard it was. I'm very competitive, so I was like, you know what? I got to train hard because I got to beat this guy.
What do you think's different about you than someone else who, obviously if someone else went through what you went through, they might not become a triathlete, like what do you think's how are you programmed differently? Is it like your upbringing, your parents, anything like that?
Yeah, I think the values, right? I think the values that, for one, your parents teach you. Um, like I said, I'm no better than nobody. But what separates me from the rest is that I've embraced those values, and I'm trying to pass on the baton to my kids and teach them the same values, right? And I think, me working a full-time job, and being the best I can be, the best version of myself every day, and um, showing them the capabilities of doing things despite of challenges that come across. I think that definitely, um, comes out as a big win, and a big impactful subject for your kids to kind of follow. And so I think, like I said, I'm no better, but I try my hardest to teach my kids values, and I think that's ultimately the factor.
Beautiful, beautiful. What if you could talk to, your younger 10-year-old self, what's some advice you would give? Something that you learned.
Man, get in triathlon now,
Yeah.
because I think I missed out on a lot of years of um being in the sport. I think telling my younger self is like, go get it, go find that information, go be exposed into some of the disability sports that they're out there. And I didn't find all these things until later in my years. And so that to me was a little bit like, man, I lost a lot of time, and
Mm.
I didn't have a running leg until later in my years. When I got older, I didn't know about them. And so now I got cycling legs, I got running legs, I got legs for days, and so um I definitely tell even the younger people when I go see patients in the hospital sometimes, I tell them, you're young, you have so much potential. Don't miss out on the opportunities. That, if you feel like you want to play, I don't know, rugby, wheelchair rugby, like, go try it out. Because it's only then when you try it out that you realize, damn, like I could have done this, I could do this, and then you could be in, the next Paralympics, and so I think that's what I could tell myself, just go get it, instead of having to be hesitant about things.
Yeah, totally. That's great advice for sure. I what's next for you? So would you want to be like a coach in any way, or you just focusing on family right now?
So a couple of things, right? in work, at my job, I have goals as well. I'm an operations manager for a logistics company, um, uh, temperature control logistics, and I love what I do. I'm a person. I like to interact with my employees. I like to get to know them. I'm not just there for for a paycheck. I'm there because I like building relationships. I like connecting, and so outside and outside is what I do. And I think I want to expand my role. I want to future my career. Obviously, maybe one day I could be a regional vice president of for the company, and so that's one of my ultimate goals as far as my work. And then as a person, I'm currently coaching right now for my daughter's soccer team.
Hmm.
Um, I just picked up on this probably a few weeks ago, and so looking forward to what that entails for me, and how that's gonna make an impact on my kids.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, potentially I would want to come back to triathlon and maybe become a triathlon coach.
Yeah.
And that keep that chapter going. Obviously not at the same level because I'm not competing anymore, but probably give a nugget or two to people that are looking for that, those techniques and those things that I've learned from those years that I competed, right? And so that's kind of what it looks like. Or maybe eventually me and my wife can open up a business with fitness. We're into fitness a lot, and so you never know. Life does a lot of turns, crazy turns, and what's crazy about me is that I'm super like I sometimes shoot from the hip, and so one thing I'm doing one time, a minute I'm doing this, and then I was there, bam, I'm doing that. So it's like it's whatever comes at me, I might just hit it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. It's like you just live in the moment, I guess.
Yes, of course.
Very cool, man. So is there a social media or like a website we could follow you on or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have Instagram, Zimri_Solis. Uh you can find me on Facebook, Zimri, last name Solis.
Hmm.
Um and I think that's all the social media I think I have for right now. I must have oh, and I got LinkedIn. Find
Yeah.
me on LinkedIn as well, Zimri Solis. Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, man. We really appreciate it.
Man, thank you for having me. Like I said, I always love supporting, and especially when you have there's a direction and what you're trying to achieve and accomplish. I'm always willing to support and help the community the best way possible. And I could share a nugget or two that would help and inspire the people, man. Let's do it.
Hey, you definitely are inspiring people, man, for sure. No doubt.
Thank you.
Of course. Everyone else, thank you again for listening to another Fighter Heart podcast. We will see you again next week.